health headlines, recently CVS Caremark, one of the nation's largest pharmacy benefit managers, announced that it is dropping coverage of the GLP-1 weight loss drug Zepbound. Approved in 2023 for chronic weight management, Zepbound will no longer be included in CVS plans. The company says the move is meant to drive down prices through competition. Less effective drugs like Wegovy will remain covered. Dr. Natasha Bouillon, National Medical Director of One Medical, joins me now with more on that. I mean, on the one hand, if it's driving the prices down, that sounds good, but what does this mean for patients?
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, several people have already reached out to me to switch their medication. So the bottom line is people who are on Zepbound, that it's no longer covered, they need to switch to Wegovy. Now, the issue with that is Zepbound and Wegovy, in head-to-head trials, it's been shown that Zepbound is actually more effective. Yes. And the other issue is that there isn't a one-to-one equivalent dosage. And so if you're on Zepbound 7.5 or 10 milligrams, maybe you can switch to Wegovy, 2.4, but it's not exact one-to-one. And so it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. It does disrupt, the medication regimen for people. I tell people keep an eye out for new side effects that you might have on this new medication. And then for people who really don't want to switch away from Zepbound, there is a cash pay option for Zepbound if through Lilly Direct. The problem is it's still $400 to $500 a month, so it's still pretty pricey. And then the other thing people can try, but maybe might not be successful, is doing a prior authorization and an appeal. So I haven't seen many of these be successful, but for people who've been on Wegovy before and had bad side effects, they could say, I can't take Wegovy, I need to continue Zepbound. So there are a couple options for people, but they should reach out to their doctor to talk about what's best.
Absolutely, not one size fits all.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to switch gears now. We could be in for record heat. We've been talking about maybe pushing 117 tomorrow. And we know that as temperatures rise, that can actually have an effect on certain prescription meds. So which ones are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's really interesting how medications do affect our body and our body's ability to regulate heat and temperature. So, people who are on things like diuretics and antihistamines, we know that can lead to fluid losses. It can make people more dehydrated. Even things like antibiotics, it can cause a fever. And then, the other thing people don't realize is antidepressants and beta blockers, it actually affects your body's ability to regulate temperature. And so that means you could become more susceptible to heat exhaustion. So if people are on any of these medications, they should talk to their doctor and certainly be cautious, because people don't realize that heat exhaustion can just sneak up on you.
Yeah, no kidding. Out of nowhere, especially on days like today, that's really serious. So what can people do? What else can they do?
Yeah, so to stay safe, I tell people drink water, stay hydrated, even if you're not thirsty, and then try to avoid being outside during the peak heat. So 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., just avoid being outdoors. Talk to your doctor if it makes sense to change your medication regimen. Maybe rather than taking medications in the morning, you can switch them to the evening to be less susceptible to the effects of the heat. And then just overall making sure that you're aware of the signs of heat exhaustion. So even things that are subtle like nausea or a little bit of dizziness or lightheadedness, that can indicate a more serious problem. So if you have any of those symptoms, reach out to your doctor and just stay hydrated.
And obviously it affects not just our health, but the meds themselves too, right? So what can people do?
Absolutely, yeah. So we know that heat is very bad for medications. Medications that are left out in the heat, they become degraded, they break down, they're not as effective. And so certainly store most of your medications in a cool and dry place and make sure that it's dark. So want to avoid any sun exposure. The other thing here is I'm seeing a lot more people are using delivery pharmacies for medications.
Yes,
and so
convenient.
It's convenient, but meds that are out in the heat, they can certainly get degraded. And so a lot of pharmacies are really careful with cold chain medications. So medications that need to be in ice are often stored and put in ice very properly. It's the other meds that are more concerning. So you have to check with your pharmacy and make sure that they have temperature regulation for the delivery vehicles that they're sending the meds in. A lot of places are doing that. They're much more careful. The problem is when the meds get to your door. So a lot of people, they're not at home. The med is in their mailbox. It's out on their front porch, and that can make the meds unusable. And so I tell people, make sure you're tracking when your medication is supposed to arrive, and right when it gets there, take it away from the outdoors, because we don't want it sitting on your porch for hours.
Absolutely. Great advice, Natasha.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so very much.